Admiral Tejo stood on the bridge of the Federation flagship Unity, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. It was a beautiful day, clear skies over the Pacific. His family was down there in their home near the coast. His wife had sent him a message that morning, complaining about their son refusing to do his homework. Normal problems. Happy problems, that was 5 minutes ago, before the alarm started. "Admiral, we have multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace," the sensor officer called out. His voice was steady, but Tejo could hear the confusion underneath. "Unknown ship signatures. They're not responding to hails." Tejo pulled up the tactical display. 30 ships. No, 40. The numbers kept climbing as more vessels dropped out of hyperspace. They were in formation surrounding Earth like a closing fist. "Send out first contact protocols," Tejo ordered. "All channels. Tell them we come in peace." On the diplomatic vessel Harmony, Ambassador Sujin was already trying to establish communication. She had been preparing for this moment her entire career. First contact with an alien species. This was supposed to be the greatest day in human history. "Unknown vessels, this is Ambassador Sujin of Earth," she transmitted. "We greet you in peace and friendship. Please respond." The response came 30 seconds later, not in words but in weapons fire. The Harmony exploded in a flash of light. Sujin had exactly 3 seconds to reach the escape pod before the ship tore apart around her. She slammed her hand on the emergency release, and the pod shot away from the dying vessel just as the main reactor went critical. On the Unity's bridge, everyone watched in horror as the diplomatic ship vanished from their screens. "They fired on us," someone whispered. "They actually fired on us." Tejo felt ice spread through his chest. "All ships, combat formation. Protect Earth at all costs." The Federation fleet, all 25 ships, moved to intercept the alien vessels. They were good ships built for exploration and defense. But as the battle began, Tejo realized they might as well have been throwing rocks at a mountain. Human missiles bounced off alien shields without leaving a mark. Human railguns fired metal slugs that the alien point defense systems destroyed before they could connect. Meanwhile, the alien weapons cut through human ships like paper. The destroyer Soul lasted 14 seconds. The cruiser Atlantic managed almost a full minute before its hull gave way. One by one, human ships died, and there was nothing Tejo could do to stop it. Then the aliens turned their weapons on Earth itself. Tejo watched the tactical display with dead eyes as energy beams lanced down from orbit. The first hit near Mumbai, the second obliterated Singapore. New Seoul, his home city, was the third target. He tried to call his wife. The connection was dead. The entire city was dead. 3 million people gone in an instant. "Admiral," his weapons officer said, "we have to retreat. We cannot win this, the man was right." The Unity was one of only 4 human ships still functioning. Earth's defenses were in ruins. The aliens were systematically destroying major cities one after another. Lagos, São Paulo, Cairo. A transmission came through from the alien fleet. The voice was translated by their computers into something humans could understand, though the cold tone needed no translation. "Humans of Earth, I am Warlord Rakthar of the Kelthani Empire. You are now subjects of the Galactic Assembly. Surrender immediately and we will stop the bombardment. Resist and your species will be eliminated." Every eye on the Unity's bridge turned to Tejo. They wanted him to surrender. To save what was left, it was the logical choice. The only choice. But Tejo was looking at the casualty reports. 3 billion dead. His wife, his son, his entire world burning. He opened a channel to the alien warlord. "This is Admiral Tejo of Earth. We will never surrender. Not today. Not tomorrow. Not ever. You came here believing we were weak. You came here thinking you could scare us into submission. You were wrong." His voice grew harder. "You just killed 3 billion people. That means there are 4 billion witnesses. 4 billion people who will remember this day. 4 billion people who will make sure your species pays for what you did. You have made a terrible mistake coming here," Tejo continued, "because now we know you exist. We know where you came from, and we know that you can be killed. So run back to your assembly. Tell them that humanity is coming. Tell them we will never stop. Tell them to remember this moment, because they will regret it for what little time their civilization has left." There was a pause. Then Rakthar's laughter came through the channel. "Brave words from a dying species. Your ships are destroyed. Your cities burn. What can you possibly do to us?" "We will learn," Tejo said quietly. "And then we will come for you. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "Get us out of here. Make for the lunar bases. Spread the word to all remaining human forces. We retreat, we hide, we survive. But we do not give up." The Unity limped away from Earth as the bombardment continued. Behind them, their homeworld burned. Ahead of them, only darkness and uncertainty. In her escape pod, Sujin watched the same scene through a tiny viewport. She was injured, floating in space with air running out. But she had managed to record everything. The unprovoked attack. The slaughter. The proof of what these aliens had done. She activated the pod's emergency beacon and settled in to wait. If she survived, she would make sure the galaxy heard the truth. If she died, the recording would still be there, waiting to be found. On Earth, Dr. Jiwoo crawled through the ruins of her laboratory. The ceiling had collapsed. Her team was dead. But in her hand, she clutched a piece of alien technology recovered from a destroyed fighter that had crashed nearby. She pulled herself into a basement shelter and sealed the door. Emergency lights flickered on. She had supplies for maybe a week. It would have to be enough. Jiwoo placed the alien device on a work table and stared at it. This small piece of metal and crystal represented technology centuries ahead of human science. But it was not magic. It was just engineering. And engineering could be understood, copied, improved. "You made a mistake," she whispered to the device. "To the aliens, to the universe. You showed us that it's possible. You showed us what we need to become. And we are very, very good at learning." Above, the bombardment finally stopped. Rekthar was satisfied. Earth was broken. The humans would surely surrender now. He ordered his fleet to leave, confident that he had successfully established dominance. As the alien ships vanished into hyperspace, Earth fell silent. Cities burned. Billions were dead. The survivors huddled in shelters and underground facilities, trying to understand what had just happened. But in those shelters, in those ruins, in those hidden bases across the solar system, something new was being born. Not surrender, not despair. Instead, a cold determination settled over humanity like winter frost. The aliens had struck first. Now it was humanity's turn. And unlike the Kelthani, humanity would not stop until the job was finished. 5 years had passed since the attack. Dr. Jiwoo looked nothing like the young scientist who had crawled through the ruins of her laboratory. Her hair had gone gray early. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She had not taken a full day off in 60 months. But today, standing in the main assembly hall on Titan, she allowed herself a small smile. Behind her stood the result of 5 years of endless work. A ship, not just any ship, a human vessel equipped with faster-than-light travel. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the gathered crowd of scientists and military officials. "I present the Phoenix. She is fast, heavily armed, and built from a combination of recovered alien technology and human innovation. More importantly, she is just the first of many." Admiral Taeho stood in the front row, studying the ship with critical eyes. He had aged too. Though his eyes burned with the same intensity they had held since that terrible day, he had spent 5 years preparing for this moment. "How many can we build?" he asked. "With our current production facilities?" Jiwoo pulled up a holographic display. "We can produce 50 ships per year, but I have plans to expand. Give me another year and we can triple that number." Around the solar system, humanity had rebuilt in secret. The Keltani thought Earth was broken, its people defeated. They were wrong. Humans had scattered to every corner of their star system, building hidden facilities on moons and asteroids. Europa housed manufacturing plants beneath its ice. The asteroid belt was filled with shipyards. Even in the ruins of Earth, underground cities had been constructed. Captain Haewon raised her hand. "Dr. Jiwoo, what about weapons? The aliens' shield stopped everything we had last time." Jiwoo's smile grew wider. "We understand their shield technology now, and we have developed weapons specifically designed to counter it. Plasma cannons that operate on a frequency their shields cannot block. Missiles that phase through energy barriers. And something special I like to call the piercer." She brought up a video of a weapons test. A small missile struck an alien shield generator that had been captured years ago. The shield held for exactly 2 seconds before the missile punched through and destroyed the generator. "We have learned from our mistakes," Jiwoo said. "And we have learned from their technology. In some ways, our ships are now superior to theirs." Taeho nodded slowly. "Then it is time. Captain Haewon, select your best crew. You will lead a reconnaissance mission into Kelthani space. We need to know their positions, their strength, their weaknesses. 3 weeks later, the Phoenix slipped into hyperspace. It was the first time a human ship had left the solar system under its own power. HFY stood on the bridge, feeling the subtle vibration of the engines beneath her feet. All systems normal, her engineer reported. FTL drive stable. We are making good speed. HFY allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. They were actually doing it. Humanity was going to the stars. Not as explorers or diplomats this time. As hunters, the Phoenix arrived at the edge of Kelthani territory 2 days later. HFY kept the ship in stealth mode, using passive sensors to scan for targets. It did not take long to find one. A small Kelthani outpost orbited a gas giant. 5 ships. Maybe 200 personnel. Nothing that could threaten Earth, but perfect for testing human capabilities. We should gather intelligence and leave, her second officer suggested. Our mission is reconnaissance, not combat. HFY studied the tactical display. The man was right. The smart play was to observe and report back. But 5 years of rage and grief demanded another answer. Negative, she said. We are going to send them a message. Battle stations. The Phoenix dropped out of stealth and accelerated toward the outpost. The Kelthani ships detected her immediately, but their response was slow. They had grown comfortable after 5 years of peace, confident that humanity was no longer a threat. Their confidence died with the first Kelthani ship. The Phoenix's plasma cannons tore through its shields like they were not even there. The second ship tried to run. HFY destroyed it with a piercer missile that punched through its engine core. The remaining 3 ships finally got organized and returned fire. Their weapons were powerful, but the Phoenix was faster. HFY maneuvered like she was flying a fighter, not a warship. She had studied every second of footage from the first battle, learning how the Kelthani fought. They were predictable. They followed standard tactics. They expected their enemies to do the same. Humans had learned to stop being predictable. The Phoenix rolled and dove in ways the Kelthani could not anticipate. When they expected her to retreat, she charged forward. When they thought she would attack from the right, she came from below. In 15 minutes, all 5 Kelthani ships were destroyed. HFY then turned her attention to the outpost itself. Broadcast on all Kelthani frequencies, she ordered. When the channel opened, she spoke clearly. This is Captain HFY of Earth. 5 years ago, your people came to our world and murdered billions. You thought you destroyed us. You were wrong. This is your only warning. Humanity is coming. Tell your leaders. Tell your military. Tell everyone. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you attack the wrong species. She closed the channel and gave the order to destroy the outpost. The Phoenix's weapons reduced it to debris in seconds. On the Kelthani homeworld, Commander Lorval received the transmission with growing horror. He had been one of the few officers who questioned the attack on Earth. Now his worst fears were coming true. He rushed to military headquarters and demanded a meeting with the High Command. We need to take this seriously. The humans have advanced faster than anyone thought possible. They just destroyed an entire outpost. The generals dismissed his concerns. 1 outpost, 1 ship. They got lucky. We will send a fleet to finish what we started. Lorval tried to make them understand. You are not listening. These humans have adapted. They have learned. They are not the same species we attacked 5 years ago. But his words fell on deaf ears. The Kelthani military was convinced of their superiority. They sent a fleet of 20 ships to Earth expecting an easy victory. Those 20 ships never made it to Earth. They were intercepted by 50 human vessels near Jupiter. The battle lasted 3 hours. No Kelthani ship survived to retreat. Admiral Tejo watched the battle from the bridge of his new flagship, the Retribution. Around him, his fleet moved with perfect coordination. 5 years of training, 5 years of preparation. It was all paying off. When the last Kelthani ship exploded, he opened a channel to all human forces. That was for the 3 billion. But we are not done. Not even close. Today we defended our home. Tomorrow we take the war to them. He pulled up a star map showing Kelthani territory. I want production increased. I want every able person trained for combat. I want ships, weapons, and soldiers. Because in 6 months we are going to invade their space. And we are not going to stop until they understand the price of their mistake. Around the solar system, humanity roared its approval. They had been waiting for this moment. 5 years of grief and rage were finally going to be answered. The Kelthani had struck first, believing humans were weak. Now they were about to learn the most important lesson in galactic history. Humanity does not know how to quit, and once you wake them up, they never stop coming. The great hall of the Galactic Assembly fell silent as the ancient doors groaned open. Velmar walked slowly across the polished floor, his walking staff tapping with each step. The old Seer had not been seen in these chambers for decades, and his sudden appearance made every representative uneasy. Chancellor Myrna shifted in her seat at the center podium. She had hoped to finish today's session without incident. The Assembly had important trade agreements to discuss. But now, looking at Velmar's determined face, she knew those plans were about to change. Honored members of the Assembly, Velmar's voice was weak but clear. I come with a warning that cannot wait. I have seen the future, and it is dark. Warlord Rakthar laughed from his seat. The old fool speaks of visions again. Perhaps we should return him to the retirement home before he embarrass himself further. Several representatives chuckled, but Velmar did not react to the insult. He had lived too long to care about such things. Instead, he raised his staff and pointed toward the large star map displayed behind the Chancellor. There, he said, that small yellow star on the edge of explored space. The third planet orbiting it. Earth, they call it. The beings there call themselves humans. Myrna brought up information on her display. Yes, we are aware of them. A primitive species. They have barely left their own world. Why do you bring them to our attention? Because I have seen what they will become, Velmar replied. His eyes seemed to look at something far away. I have seen their fleets filling the sky like angry insects. I have seen worlds burning. I have seen this very hall in ruins. The chamber erupted in noise. Some representatives laughed, others looked confused. Rakthar stood up, his massive form towering over his seat. Impossible, the warlord declared. We have studied these humans. They fight among themselves with primitive weapons. Their ships barely reach their own moon. It would take them 1,000 years to threaten even the weakest of us. Velmar turned to face the warlord directly. That is what you see now. But I see what comes after. These humans have something we have never encountered before. They do not know how to give up. All species fight for survival, Myrna said carefully. What makes them different? The old Seer's voice grew stronger. We fight when we must. We retreat when we cannot win. We surrender when continuing means death. But humans? They keep fighting even when victory is impossible. They will chase their enemies across the galaxy if necessary, and they never ever forget a wrong done to them. You speak nonsense, Rakthar said. Every species has limits. These humans are no different. That is where you are wrong. Velmar struck his staff against the floor. I have looked into their history. They have a saying on their world. We will fight on the beaches, we will fight in the streets, we will never surrender. They mean it. Every word. Then we should eliminate them now, Rakthar said, smiling, before they become a problem. No! Velmar's shout echoed through the hall. That is exactly what you must not do. If you strike first, if you harm them without cause, they will never stop coming for you. You will wake something that should have remained sleeping. The warlord walked down to the main floor, approaching the old Seer. You want us to fear these primitives? To hide from beings who use chemical rockets and metal bullets? He pulled out a datapad and displayed images of Earth. Look at them. They still have wars over pieces of land. They poison their own planet. They are centuries behind us in every way. Yes, Velmar said quietly. That is what they are now. But think about what kind of species survives that way. Think about what made them like this. They evolved as hunters. They would track their prey for days without rest. When they fell, they stood back up. When they failed, they tried again. This behavior is written into their very nature. Myrna called for order as the chamber grew loud again. Honored Seer, we respect your service to the Assembly, but surely you can see that your visions are too extreme. Perhaps you have misinterpreted what you saw. I wish that were true, Velmar replied. But I have seen this vision every night for months. It is always the same, always clear. If we leave them alone, they will eventually join us as equals. But if we attack them first, if we show them that the galaxy is a place of violence, they will bring that violence back to us 1,000 times over. Rakthar turned to address the Assembly. I propose we send a small fleet to Earth, not to destroy, but to make them submit to our authority. A show of force. They will surrender immediately when they see our power. This will prevent future conflicts and establish the proper order. Many representatives nodded in agreement. It seemed reasonable. Better to establish dominance now than wait for potential problems later. You fools. Velmar whispered. You absolute fools. You think you are preventing a war. You are starting one that will end your civilization. Myrna called for a vote. One by one, the representatives cast their decision. The result was overwhelming.
The Assembly approved Rokthar's proposal to send a fleet to Earth. The warlord smiled in triumph.
See, old one? The Assembly agrees with me. We will make these humans understand their place. A few destroyed cities and they will beg for mercy. Velmar looked at each representative with sad, ancient eyes. He knew they would not listen. He had seen this moment in his visions too. Everything was happening exactly as he had foreseen. When your ships arrive at Earth, Velmar said slowly, when you fire the first shot, remember this moment. Remember that you were warned. Because from that moment forward, humanity will have only one goal, to make sure you pay for what you did. Empty threats from a senile old creature, Rokthar dismissed. Velmar turned and began walking toward the doors. His staff tapped slowly across the floor. When he reached the exit, he stopped and looked back one final time. You have sealed our fate today, he said. If you strike first, they will never stop. Not in a year. Not in 10 years. Not in 100. They will hunt you across galaxies if necessary. They will turn your worlds to dust. They will make sure that every species in the universe knows what happens when you attack humanity without cause. And they will win, Velmar added quietly, because they simply do not know how to quit. The doors closed behind him and the old Seer was gone. The Assembly quickly moved on to other business, eager to forget the uncomfortable scene. Rokthar immediately began planning his expedition to Earth, confident in his superiority. None of them noticed the slight trembling in Velmar's final words. None of them understood that he had not been making threats. He had been offering a prophecy. And in all his long years of seeing the future, his visions had never once been wrong. 3 months later, Rokthar's fleet would arrive at Earth, and everything would change forever. The Kelthani Border Defense Station received an alert at exactly 600 hours. Unknown ships approaching. Hundreds of them. The station commander stared at his displays in disbelief. It was impossible. Nothing that large could approach without advance warning. But the sensors did not lie. A massive human fleet was dropping out of hyperspace all around the system. Not just one fleet, multiple fleets hitting multiple systems simultaneously. It was a coordinated assault on a scale the galaxy had never seen. The commander managed to send one transmission before the human weapons tore his station apart. They are here. The humans are here. Emperor, save us. Admiral Tejo watched from the bridge of the Retribution as 12 Kelthani systems burned. The operation was proceeding exactly as planned. Human forces had practiced these maneuvers hundreds of times in simulation. Now it was real. Admiral, the second wave reports all objectives secured, his tactical officer reported. Kelthani forces are in full retreat. Tejo nodded. Good, begin phase 2. I want planetary invasions to commence immediately. Colonel Bora stood in the troop carrier as it descended toward the Kelthani colony world below. Around her, 2,000 Marines prepared for combat. They wore powered armor, carried plasma rifles, and had trained for this moment for years. Listen up, she addressed her troops. The Kelthani think they are warriors. They think their ground forces are superior. They are wrong. We have studied their tactics. We know their weaknesses. And unlike them, we have actually fought wars on our own planet for thousands of years. Show them what real soldiers look like. The carriers landed in a storm of weapons fire. Kelthani defenders rushed to meet the human invaders, expecting the same kind of direct confrontation they were used to. Instead, Bora's forces scattered into small units that attacked from unexpected angles, used the terrain to their advantage, and refused to fight fairly. The Kelthani were excellent shots and disciplined soldiers. But they had never faced an enemy like humanity. Humans used tricks, traps, and psychological warfare. They attacked supply lines, communications, and moral. They made the Kelthani defenders paranoid and exhausted. Within 48 hours, Bora's forces had secured the planet. The Kelthani garrison surrendered, confused and defeated by an enemy that refused to fight the way they expected. Across 12 systems, the story was the same. Human forces overwhelmed Kelthani defenders through superior tactics, better training, and an absolute refusal to give up. In space, Captain Haywan's legend grew with each battle. She was leading a squadron against a Kelthani dreadnought when her ship took heavy damage. Most commanders would have retreated. HFY accelerated directly toward the enemy vessel. "All power to forward shields," she ordered. "We are going right down their throat." Her crew thought she was insane. The Kelthani certainly did. The Defiance charged through a storm of weapons fire, shields flaring with each hit. Then, at point-blank range, HFY released every missile she had left. The Dreadnought's shields were designed to stop attacks from a distance. They were not prepared for missiles fired from inside their defensive envelope. The massive ship broke apart, its reactor going critical. The Defiance barely escaped the blast, but HFY had proven a point. Kelthani ships were powerful, but they were predictable. Humans were willing to take risks that no sane alien commander would consider. News of humanity's assault reached the Galactic Assembly 3 days into the offensive. Chancellor Myrna convened an emergency session, her face pale with shock. "This cannot be happening," she said. "How did a species we considered primitive just 6 years ago manage to build such a massive military force?" Scientist Thelkos had been studying human psychology for years. He stood to address the assembly. "Because we underestimated what desperation and determination can achieve. These humans spent every resource, dedicated their entire civilization to one goal: revenge. While we maintained our comfortable lives, they sacrificed everything to become what they needed to be." The ancient Seer Velmar appeared in the chamber, looking older and more tired than before. "I warned you," he said simply. "I told you what would happen if you struck first. But you did not listen. Now look at what you have created." "We must stop them," one representative insisted. "Send the combined assembly fleet. Show them they cannot stand against all of us." Velmar laughed, a bitter sound. "You still do not understand. This is not about military power anymore. This is about will. The humans have something we have never possessed. They do not stop. Ever. You can defeat them in 100 battles and they will come back for the 101st. They will fight for generations if necessary." "Then what do you suggest?" Myrna asked. "Pray," Velmar replied. "Pray that they will be satisfied with destroying the Kelthani. Because if you make them your enemy too, the assembly will not survive." Ambassador Sujin arrived at the assembly 3 weeks later. She had been rescued from her escape pod years ago and had spent the time since recovering and preparing for this moment. Now she stood before the galaxy's leaders representing humanity for the second time. "6 years ago I came here in peace," she said. "Your response was to destroy my ship and kill my crew. Then you bombarded Earth and murdered 3 billion people. Today I return with humanity's demands." She displayed a holographic document. "The Kelthani Empire will be completely dismantled. Their military will be dissolved. They will pay reparations for the next century. Every species that supported the attack on Earth will face similar terms. And the Galactic Assembly will be reformed with humanity as a permanent member with veto power." "These terms are excessive," Myrna protested. "You are demanding we restructure the entire galactic order." Sujin's expression remained cold. "Those are our merciful terms. The alternative is that we continue our advance until the Kelthani civilization no longer exists. Then we will turn our attention to every species that voted to attack us. You have 48 hours to decide." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing. Remove the current Kelthani leadership from power. If we have to do it ourselves, we will not be gentle about it." The assembly erupted in argument as soon as she left. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to negotiate. But as reports continued to arrive from the front lines, the reality became clear. Humanity was winning. Not just barely winning, but dominating every engagement. The Kelthani Emperor, desperate to save his species, ordered the execution of Warlord Rakthar and his entire command staff. Then he broadcasted an unconditional surrender to humanity. Admiral Tejo received the surrender message while his fleet was preparing to assault the Kelthani homeworld. He read it carefully, then forwarded it to Earth Command. "What do you think?" his second officer asked. "Will we accept?" Tejo looked at the planet below, Kelthera Prime, the world where the decision to attack Earth had been made. Part of him wanted to watch it burn, to make them feel what Earth had felt. But he was also a soldier, not a murderer. "We accept their surrender," he said finally. "But the occupation begins immediately, and if they ever threaten humanity again, we will finish what we started." He opened a channel to the planet. "This is Admiral Tejo of Earth. Your surrender is accepted. All military forces will disarm immediately. Human forces will occupy your world until we are satisfied that you are no longer a threat. Resist, and we will demonstrate why you should not have attacked us in the first place." On the bridge of the Retribution, Tejo allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. 6 years ago, the Kelthani had thought they were conquering a primitive species. Now their empire was broken, their military destroyed, their homeworld occupied. The old Seer had been right. Once humanity was struck first, they never stopped. And now the entire galaxy was learning that lesson. The age of human dominance had begun, written in the ruins of those who had made the fatal mistake of underestimating them. 2 years after the Kelthani surrender, humanity controlled over a third of what used to be Kelthani space. The occupation was proceeding according to plan, but Admiral Tejo was not satisfied. Earth's fleet continued to grow, and with it, humanity's ambitions. In the Grand Council chamber on Earth, rebuilt from the ruins of the old city, Tejo addressed the Federation leadership. The Kelthani are defeated, but they were not alone. 3 other species in the Galactic Assembly voted to support the attack on our world. They share responsibility for what happened. They must share the consequences. President Lena, recently elected to lead the reformed Earth government, nodded slowly. "What are you proposing, Admiral?" "Ultimatums," Tejo replied. "Each species that supported the attack will receive the same choice. Surrender their military capabilities and accept human oversight, or face the full might of our fleet." Ambassador Sujin frowned. "That will be seen as aggressive expansion. The rest of the galaxy will turn against us." "Let them," Tejo said coldly. "We have the strongest military force in the known galaxy. If they choose to fight us, they will lose. If they choose to accept the new order, they will live. The choice is theirs." Dr. Jiwoo spoke up from her seat. "Admiral, I understand your anger. We all lost people we loved, but we need to think carefully about what kind of civilization we want to become. Are we defenders of justice, or are we conquerors?" Tejo met her eyes. "We are survivors, Doctor, and we will do whatever is necessary to ensure that what happened 8 years ago never happens again. If that makes us conquerors in the eyes of the galaxy, so be it. Better feared than destroyed," the Council voted. It was not unanimous, but the majority supported the Admiral's plan. Humanity would send its ultimatums. 2 of the 3 species accepted immediately. They had watched what happened to the Kelthani and had no desire to share their fate. Their militaries were dismantled peacefully, and human advisors took control of their defense planning. But the 3rd species, the Vorath Empire, refused. Their leader, Empress Kayla, sent a defiant message to Earth. "We are not the Kelthani. We will not bow to human threats. Come if you dare." Admiral Tejo did not hesitate. He assembled a fleet of 200 warships and jumped into Vorath space. The Vorath military had prepared for the invasion, deploying their full strength of over 300 vessels. It did not matter. The Battle of Vorath lasted 3 weeks. Not because the Vorath were particularly strong, but because they had many ships spread across multiple systems. One by one, human forces systematically destroyed or captured every Vorath military asset they encountered. Captain Haewon, now commanding a battle group of her own, broke through the Vorath home defense fleet in less than 6 hours. Her tactics had become legendary across the galaxy. She fought in ways that no computer simulation could predict, combining aggression with creativity in equal measure. Empress Kayla herself was captured when human marines stormed her palace. Colonel Bora led the assault personally, her forces moving through the building like ghosts. The elite Vorath guard never knew what hit them. When Bora entered the throne room, Kayla sat waiting with dignity. "So this is humanity's justice," the Empress said. "Swift and merciless." "No," Bora replied. "This is humanity's response to those who threaten us. Justice would have been leaving you alone when you left us alone. You made a different choice." The fall of the Vorath Empire sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Species that had once considered humanity primitive now evacuated their border worlds preemptively, afraid that humans might decide they were next. The Galactic Assembly was in chaos. Chancellor Myrna had resigned in disgrace years ago. Her replacement, a cautious diplomat named Teshri, tried desperately to prevent further conflict. He invited Ambassador Sujin to address the assembly, hoping that she might be more moderate than Admiral Tejo. Sujin accepted the invitation and arrived with a full honor guard of human marines. "Honored members," she began, "I stand before you as I did 8 years ago, but the circumstances are very different now. Then I offered peace. You answered with violence. Now I offer terms. I suggest you answer more carefully. Humanity seeks no further expansion, Sujin continued. We have punished those responsible for the attack on Earth. We have demonstrated our capabilities. What we want now is security. We want guarantees that no species will ever threaten Earth again. What guarantees do you demand? Teshri asked nervously. The assembly will be reformed, Sujin said. Humanity will have permanent membership and veto power over any military action. No species may develop weapons of planetary destruction without human approval. Human observers will be stationed on all military vessels of significant size, and any attack on Earth or human interests will be considered an attack on the entire assembly. The chamber erupted in protest. You are asking us to surrender our sovereignty, one representative shouted. Sujin's voice cut through the noise. No, we are asking you to accept reality. Humanity is now the dominant military power in this region of space. That will not change. You can either work with us to build a new order, or you can resist and face the consequences. The choice, as always, is yours. Seer Velmar, now ancient and near death, spoke from his seat. Listen to her. Accept these terms. They are harsh but fair. Humans have proven they can destroy you. The fact that they are offering terms at all is more mercy than you deserve. You told us this would happen, Teshri said to the old seer. You warned us not to strike first. Yes, Velmar replied. I saw this future clearly, but even I did not fully understand what humanity would become. They are not conquerors by nature. They are survivors. Everything they have done comes from that single trait. They simply refuse to die, refuse to give up, refuse to let their enemies escape justice. The assembly debated for 2 days. In the end, they accepted humanity's terms. What choice did they have? Human shipyards were producing vessels faster than any 3 other species combined. Human technology had surpassed galactic standards, and human will was absolute. The Terran Accord was signed 3 months later. Earth became the capital of a new interstellar organization. Humanity would enforce the peace, maintain galactic security, and ensure that the mistakes of the past were never repeated. Not everyone was happy with the new arrangement. There were protests, resistance movements, and occasional violence, but these were quickly suppressed. Human forces had become efficient at maintaining order. Dr. Jiwoo, watching all of this unfold, felt uneasy. She met with Admiral Taeho in his office one evening, looking out at the lights of the rebuilt city below. Are you satisfied? She asked. We have achieved everything we set out to do. The Kelthani are defeated. Those who supported them are under our control. Humanity is safe. Taeho was quiet for a long moment. No, he said finally. I am not satisfied. 3 billion people are still dead. My family is still gone. Victory does not erase that pain. Then what will satisfy you? Jiwoo asked gently. Time, Taeho replied. Time and the knowledge that it will never happen again. That is why we built this empire, Doctor. Not for glory or conquest, but to ensure that no one will ever dare attack Earth again. We have become what we fought against, Jiwoo observed. No, Taeho corrected. The Kelthani attacked without provocation. We responded to an attack. That difference matters. Jiwoo was not entirely convinced, but she understood. Humanity had been forever changed by what happened. They could never return to being the innocent species that had reached for the stars with open hands. Across the galaxy, the name humanity became synonymous with power and retribution. Parents told their children stories about what happens when you attack the wrong species. Military academies studied human tactics. Philosophers debated whether humanity's rise represented justice or tyranny. But one thing was certain. The old seer's prophecy had come true in every detail. Humanity had been struck first, and they had never stopped. They had chased their enemies across the stars, broken empires, and reshaped the galactic order. And now, sitting at the center of power, they ensured that the lesson was never forgotten. The age of humanity had begun, and it was built on a simple truth. Some species, when wounded, die. Others, when wounded, become unstoppable.